Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show today, right, Senor Don?
That is correct.
Yes, as usual. As usual, how was your, we kind of missed the week. We kind of went on a hiatus and had a little playback. How did that go on the day after? Was it the day after Christmas or sometime on the Christmas week? How did that go?
It was on a Christmas week, and I will say,
you will
good
say,
job.
Good job. Well, thank you. That was
Yeah.
some interviews that we did out there at Netroots Nation.
Mhm.
And, those are some characters, some great candidates that we have running, progressive candidates that we have running. It is going to be ultimately very, very good. But how was your week, sir?
My week has been a week, man. 12 hours here every day. I'm good.
Folks, Don is one of the best producers extraordinaire, program director. Look, we need to make sure that it's always called what it is, because he really has gotten a hell of a lot of stuff happening here at KPFT. So you keep up the good work, buddy. You keep up the good work. And we love what you're doing out here, all right?
Thank you.
And let me tell you, I guess where I was over the last week, man?
Kingwood?
No. Hey, come on, man.
That's where you're always at.
I know, but no, don't say that. I was in Cuba.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was in Cuba, and I met my fellow brethren out there. We had a ball, and I learned a whole lot of history about Cuba and all that good stuff. So I was like super happy. All I can tell all the people listening here: don't believe the crap you hear from the government. That is a standard out here. You go meet the people yourself. People are great all over the world, right? Right, correct. Facebook, people are great. Anyhow, we're going to have a great show today. The time for Americans to mobilize to remove the existential threat is when?
Right now.
It is right now. It was
right yesterday.
Now. Yesterday, yeah, but we didn't show up yesterday, and we're now paying the price for not having that showed up yesterday.
That is correct.
But, before I'd even get with the blog, we have two great ladies in here. We're not going to start with them. I just want to introduce them. We have Janice Character, who is one of the founding members of the Houston Women's March, and we have Sana Shahid, who is a part of the Houston Women's March as well in 2018. So why don't you just tell our audience a quick hi before we get started with the program? So, Janice.
Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here. I'm one of the founding members of the Houston Women's March, and really excited to talk to you about what we have going on in the next 3 weeks.
Excellent, Anjani. Sana
like the sun.
Sana, El Sol, yes.
Hey guys, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, look, it's great having you, and as soon as my pad starts to behave, I can actually get busy. But anyhow, folks, the time isn't just November 8th or November whenever. The time is now. An existential threat is just that, one that threatens our existence. As such, we do not stay passive until some subsequent election, as the decimation and attack continue growing. Civil defiance is required to stunt the growth of the cancer that it is extricated during the election. We can't wait for it to be extricated during the election. But before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig on Mondays at 9 p.m.
Partisan Gridlock with
Jeff Berg on Fridays at 3 p.m.
Of course, we've got Open Journal with
Dwayne Bradley and Marlo Blue on Mondays at 6 p.m.
And I went to where this brother's music is represented.
Yes.
Jazz Latino, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz at its best, hosted by
Juan Flores on Tuesdays at noon.
Hey, and you know what, man? I actually went out there and I was dancing to all that good song, man.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
it was really great. But then, of course, we have the one and only Don, who works with, or whose programs are The Human Condition at 3 p.m. on the HD3 side, as well as the Free Minstrel Show with Don and Dwayne at 4 p.m. on Fridays on the KPFT HD3 side. And I think you've got a couple more. I know you're the hardest working man in at KPFT.
Along with a lot of myriad of shows. Just look them up.
Okay, just look it up.
Yeah, just look it up.
Give it a name or two. Come on, just throw them out.
Okay, we have Really, which is a serious talk show, comes on at 9 o'clock on HD3. Then we have Really But Not Really that comes on tonight at 10 p.m.
So, folks, listen in. Check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is listener-supported public community radio station. So please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by whom?
The corporatocracy.
Thank you. Didn't see you on that. Anyhow, this is KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston, Texas. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your thoughts. Remember, hashtag politics done right, and get on Twitter and but go ahead and talk to Egberto Willies on Twitter. That's my handle. You can listen to the live stream on Facebook Live, or you can go to kpft.org/listen. But folks, do you know what time it is? And guess what happens here? Guess what happens when it's the time to do this? It's going to happen someday. And Don is in the office smiling and he's saying, Egberto, guess what? Your typewriter is not there. Egberto, guess what? Your music is not there. But anyhow, it is time for the blog of
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, folks, it's time for the weekly blog post. What's the title of the blog post today? It is Time to Remove the Existential Threat from Office. And we all know who the existential threat is. Donald Trump is an existential threat to the United States of America, both domestically and internationally. The absence of citizen action must end now. Again, the absence of citizens' action must end now. I'm happy to have two women in the studio right now who are going to have a positive action, right?
Yes.
Going forward. A positive action, but it's going to be an action. What has happened to the American spirit? How can a country who admonishes those countries who continue to elect despots just sit back while its despots decimates the fabric of our own society? Our own despot is decimating society. Did we become so weak and impotent that we've forgotten that we, the people, matter and continue to have the power to effect change? The release of Michael Wolff's new book, Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House, tells a rather pathetic story. Steve Bannon, the president's past campaign director and confidant, confirmed what we all knew about Donald Trump Jr., that what he did was a treasonous act, was an unpatriotic act, as he met with Russian operatives at Trump Tower. The book revealed in more detail that the president's closest advisors marked him as a moron, an idiot, a dumb you-know-what, and a dope. Republican leadership knows this, but all they need is Donald Trump's rudderless, brainless right hand to sign their Ayn Randian draconian bills. The Republican tax cut scam was signed with some popular resistance, but not near the activity needed for the pain that it will cause or for the pilfering of the poor and the middle class it represents. The EPA is decimating regulations that protected our environment as Trump and Republican cronies are allowed to pollute our environment and profit from our national treasure. Republicans have sworn to use the deficit created by the tax cut scam as a reason to cut the Social Security, Obamacare, Medicaid, and Medicare of the masses. Again, why are Americans so relatively silent? The plutocracy is of the belief that the tenets instituted by the Powell Manifesto have rendered them soft. Activists are geared up. It is not time, or rather, it is now time that every American become an activist. It is time to ensure that civil action slow down the process, the pilfer currently affected or currently being affected by Republicans. They know they have an intellectually challenged and mentally unstable president that they control, even as he is a pompous, empty suit. So, what specifically must Americans do? You know, a lot of people, a lot of activists are out there saying, hey, rah, rah, rah. And I think in some of the discussions that we had underneath here, maybe that is some of the things that you were alluding to, that a lot of activists are screaming, but they're not really telling people what they need to do. I think some of what you guys are going to do is tell people specifically what they need to do. And what am I going to do within this blog of the week? Also tell people specifically what to do. So what specifically must Americans do? The resistance infrastructure has already been built. You heard that? The infrastructure for the resistance has already been built. It's been activated. We've been on it for years. The problem is it's not being used effectively. The only thing missing is you. I mean, people complain every day, oh, look at what the government is doing to me. Look at what Trump is doing to me. Look at what the Republicans are doing to me. No, look at what you are doing to you. You have to get your butt up. When these two women speak and tell you what they're going to do, you have to ask them, what more can you do to help them do what they need to do? The only thing missing is you. First, go to indivisible.org. Is it .org? I think it's .org. I didn't put it here. Anyhow, it will guide you to a local group to work through. Be active in that group and suggest your own actions. There are many other groups like Our Revolution, Swing Left, etc., etc. Are you a right-wing person? Look for a swing right that is doing something positive. I really don't care. Just get our country moving again in the right direction. For my left-wing listeners, you guys know I'm a left-winger. I'm not leaving you alone, okay? But look, my best buddies out there in Kingwood are right-wing Republicans, okay? They're my buddies anyway. Anyhow, there are many other groups like Our Revolution, Swing Left, etc. that you must be a part of. Do not wait. Become a voter registrar. Register people to vote. But don't only register people to vote. That's not enough. Jump into that to the poll and saying, oh, I am going to vote today. When you have a country determined to keep some people from voting, the voter registration is not enough. Make sure when you register somebody to vote that they also have the credentials necessary to vote when they enter the voting office, the voting booth, etc., etc., etc. Do not wait. Do not wait. That is what it will take. It is time to wake up. It is time to be the Americans that we must be if we will become the America we want to become. Folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. And you know, you're lucky my brain is not in reverse mode, because I'm looking for that telephone number up there and it's like, where is it? Where is it?
I took it down.
Oh, God, Don.
You guys got to memorize these numbers.
Don, you have to help me. You're the producer extraordinaire. You need to kind of help us out here, buddy. You know, the mind can't be working all the time. But anyhow, folks, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Janice Character.
Like a character in a play.
You know,
I'm a real character.
I said it before, and I'm like, Janice Character. Okay. Janice, tell us a little bit about the Women's March. And tell me a little bit about the Women's March. And also tell me, and John and Scott, I'll be with you. And tell me, what do you intend to do? And afterwards, I'm going to go over a little kind of discussion that we had previous to the show. Go ahead.
Sounds good. I absolutely love your blog today, because that's really why we're here. We want to talk about what people can do as individuals and what people can do as groups. You might remember that last year, right here in Houston, Texas, we had 22,000 women, men, and children who marched together down to City Hall, all expressing their shared values around love, tolerance, and diversity during the Houston Women's March. And that was the day after the inauguration.
Right.
And you know what really started that.
Yes, I do.
So this year, we're going to be marching again on January 20th, and we're inviting progressives to unite up and to join us during that march. Similar to what you've talked about, during 2017, we saw an unprecedented assault on public policies and the normal rule of law in America. So as people who are unwilling or who might even be unable to steward the public trust have assaulted our nearly 250-year history of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So it's time for us to make our voices heard and to remake Congress, to remake our state and our region, so that we're choosing and electing women and men who will help people rather than enrich themselves and their donors. And I don't have to tell you who I'm talking about there. So what we're going to be doing is organizing progressives around the 4 C's, and they are causes, and we'll talk about that in a moment, candidates, making sure that we have great women candidates and great progressive candidates, whether they're men or women, communications, and a huge effort around getting out to vote, because that's going to be very important that we register people, we take people to the poll, and we let our voices be heard. And I'm going to let Sana talk about some of the other things that we're doing.
Okay, Sana.
Hey, my name is Sana. I am here. I marched last year, but I'm here helping organize this year's march because I think it's just as important to march this year as it was last year, because we've all seen what 2017 had in store.
Let me interrupt you a second, because
Please.
that's a very important statement. It's important. I would posit that it's even more important this year, because we were marching last year of what we thought they would have done. This year we are marching because we know what they're doing. You're right, what they've done and what they're doing. Sorry to interrupt. Continue,
No,
please.
please, that was thank you. And so we are marching this year so that people who haven't had a voice and people who haven't been don't know where to start and have a place to go to have their voices heard, to meet like-minded people, to feel like they are a part of something that will make a difference. Because marching, protesting, voting, it all matters, because no matter what our government tries to do right now, we are still a democracy. America is still a democracy, and that's what this march is going to represent. It's going to represent America, and we want this march to be as diverse and inclusive as possible, because we live in Houston, which is the second most diverse city in the entire nation. And that's what America has become today as well. We're a diverse country. And so that's what this march is going to be as well. It's going to be a platform for people who don't feel like they have a voice to come together and stand for something.
You brought up the topic diversity, and I want to hit up that topic a little bit deeper, because again, I'm right here in the activist community as well. I'm a member of Indivisible, a member of Our Revolution, a member of a lot of these other organizations. And one of the things that is disconcerting to me is many times I'm one of the few Black people, one of the few people of color, when reality is the evils affected by the Trump administration disproportionately affect these people of color. They affect more people of color. They affect more people of religions, not Christian, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my question to you is, as a member of this broad-based group, what exactly are you doing to enter into those communities that don't naturally come out to these activist type events? I've heard a whole lot of other organizations pondering the same or talking about the same problem. How can we make ourselves a place that these others want to be a part of, because they are, again, affected more so than others by what the Trump administration is doing?
We want to be a safe space for people who are part of minorities. We want to be somewhere where they feel like their voice is heard. And so as the Women's March, what we're doing personally right now is to reach out to these. We've identified the groups that we feel like don't get enough representation, and we are reaching out to them to make them a part of the march, to be represented. So to come to the march and represent their minority groups or whatever cause, religion, people of color, whatever they align or identify as, to come and represent themselves, because we want this march to be as representative of Houston and America as possible.
Janice, I think you wanted to interject in there as well.
Yeah, I just wanted, to make it clear that I don't want people to think that we marched last year and then we went home and didn't do anything until this year. So throughout 2017, we have been organizing in communities. As a result of the march last year, we did organize what we call huddle groups or cells group, where we brought people together from different communities with team captains to go back and lead dialogues within their community, lead actions and things that they were doing in their community to make sure that we were reaching people that you may not reach on a normal basis. We did training. We taught people how to talk to one another, how to have conversations with people who might have different political beliefs or different ideas than you. And then we also had people work on things that are in their community, because what might be important to you in your community may not be the same thing. Healthcare may not be an issue because
you work
from
for corporate America,
and my healthcare is free.
Right.
So we had those dialogues to continue doing 2017 as well.
Now I'm going to get a touchy issue, and I'm going to do it sort of in a light manner, because I don't want it to consume the conversation here, because what you guys are already doing is great. But you know, I'm a Facebook fiend, and I noticed that there are some issues in Facebook that were concerning that concerned the current Women's March and how their approaches it with the community of color. What can you tell me, or what can you tell those people who are concerned that those concerns aren't met? What can you tell them to bring them into the fold? Because one of the problems I have with activist communities on the left specifically is that we fight too much among ourselves as we are. And one of the things I try to do as an activist, as a left-wing activist, is bring not only left-wingers together, but bring all kinds of people together. But that requires that everybody play their part in getting together. So what can you tell me about this, about this issue?
We've been inviting people from various groups to collaborate with us throughout the year. I mean, in fact, I don't know if you know, but we had a Me Too march back not too long ago, where we collaborated with Black Lives Matter and with individuals group. It's this big house. It's actually 5 women. You know,
5 women.
5 women.
That got 22,000 people.
Yeah, well, actually, it was probably 4 or 5 at the time. They got the 22,000 people in 1 week, but it's 5 of us. You know, we don't have a president. We don't have a vice president. We're not a very, very formal structure. So because of the fact that we weren't out there saying, here's our organization structure, or here's this big organization, I think people thought that we were trying to be some secret
or some
select group.
And you're not.
And we're not.
Okay.
And we're not. And there was, you know, saying that we didn't have representation of color. I'm an African-American old woman, and I'm
Don't say old woman, because you're going to get me concerned of having to say I'm an old man, and I'm not going to say that.
And we are very diverse. You know, we send our messages out through the huddle groups. We've been on Facebook. We have many community rallies throughout. And so we've been very inclusive, and we invite people to join us. We really want their help. I can't represent every African-American in the group. Sana cannot represent every Pakistani. And so we need their help. We need their voices, and we encourage them to come work with us.
Excellent. So, I mean, you wanted to add to that, or?
I just wanted to say, if we haven't reached out to you, please reach out to us, because like she said, we're only a group of 5 to 7 women. So just go to our website, Houston Women's March, reach out to us, because we want your help. We want as many hands on deck to make this march as inclusive as possible.
Okay, so for all those Facebook users and Facebook folks who've been within this this dialogue, you heard what Sana and Janice had to say. Contact them. Let's remember, folks, on the left, we have to stick together. We have to work together, and we have to do all these things to ensure that we reach the ultimate goal. Let's go ahead and take a few calls. Let's go to John, line 1. Come on in, John.
Good afternoon, Egberto.
How are you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, ladies. I'm really proud that y'all are doing another march, and I think it's great that we keep the pressure on Trump and talk about issues. And so I'm really happy that you're doing this, and hope you're really successful.
Thank you so much, John. We really appreciate your support, and really hope that you come out to the march. It's on January 20th, 10 to 12.
We're going to be...
We'll talk about it.
Okay, all right. So we'll talk about the gathering place in a moment.
Yeah. And John, anything else you want to add? I know when you call, you have some numbers for me, or you have something for me.
Yeah, actually, I don't have any numbers today, but I just want to, you're talking about removing Trump, and I just want to know, you've said before that you may not want to do that
Right.
in previous months because the alternative is Pence. And so, what kind of changed your mind to the realization that Trump should be removed?
Okay, that I was being rhetorical in today's blog, not saying that I want Trump removed. I want the entire cabal removed, because the reason I brought up the book that Michael Wolff made is it's clear that everybody knows the guy is not capable of doing the job, but they're willing to have him there for the right hand. So, Mike, if you notice inside of that blog, I never said impeach the president. The only way you can have the president removed is through impeachment. My thing is completely and entirely rhetorical, and the rhetoric that I want to put out there is that we shut the entire group down. And one of the reasons I said we don't wait until the 8th of November is because the idea is we can shut them down without having elected new people right away, because the fear of the people, the fear that the people put into politicians is what's very important for those that don't intend to retire right now. I mean, the rumor is that Ryan is going, so Ryan doesn't mind killing folk before he leaves. But you get the point. So if folks, for all of those who listen to the blog, if you have the same feeling of compared to what I said before as does John, this is rhetorical. It's the idea is to remove the entire cabal. Anything else, John?
No, I'm just what about your daily show? What's the progress on that?
The progress is we are hoping to go live on Monday, and the first guest is guess whom?
Rick Trevino.
All
right. So what time are you?
Well, the time is going to be 3 p.m. same time as the Thursday shows by popular demand. So it's going to be the same time, the 3 o'clock time slot. And the reason we're having it 3 o'clock is, again, I think in one of the message you sent, you spoke about consistency and not necessarily going up against some other liberal shows in subsequent times, right?
Right, I did.
Yeah, so absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Sounds
so
good.
Thank you very much, John.
Great show.
Absolutely. So
Thank you, John.
all right, thank you. Have a great time.
Have a good one, and thanks for calling, John. Let's go to Scott, line number 3. And folks, the lines are wide open. I know you love listening to these women talk about the actions that we're going to take, but now they're ready for your question. 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Come on in, Scott.
Thank you. Well, you had mentioned that you had recently been to Cuba. I am wondering, how much do Cubans use internet? Do they have access to sites like Amnesty International or Democracy Index or Freedom House?
Oh yes, you know what I love with your question is that a lot of people in the States just sit down and think that the Cuban people are a long-suffering people dependent on the United States to come save them. No, I'm Facebook friends with Cubans right now, and we communicate. One of the family members that we went to Cuba with had family members over there who we communicated, and all while on the ship, we communicated with them via Facebook. So no, the Cuban people are very smart people, and I want you to read the blog I wrote about the entire incident in Cuba, because we get the sense here that somehow these are deprived people that are just waiting to be saved and who want this great capitalist system that we have here in America. Forget that crap. These guys understand capitalism, socialism, communism, and all the isms in between. And what they want is they want to keep their form of government with modifications that make them have the kinds of things that we can have. And you know what? In talking to several of these guys who are now entrepreneurs out there, the possibility is there. We here in America should adopt some of their policies as they adopt some of our policies, because that is where things really are. You don't find not one homeless person in Cuba, and likewise, you don't have you can't go bankrupt in healthcare. Now the place is poor. America has decimated the country with the policies that they had towards it. But again, don't buy into the crap you hear in the United States about these other countries.
But,
go there. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, I think these sites still do not rate Cuba very high on freedom of speech.
Okay. We have freedom of speech, and we got Trump.
Give the U.S. the highest ratings either.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Democracy Index just demoted the U.S. to flawed democracy rather than full democracy.
I believe that.
And we've long been rated lower than Germany or the Scandinavian countries or Australia or Canada.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And if look, I've been calling the United States for a long time. Democracy is not the word we'd like to be a democracy, but we're not. We have a plutocracy. And in having this plutocracy, we have to realize that we are not in control. But before, Scott, do you have a question for our women who are taking care of the Women's March?
Well, I can't think of any, but thank you.
We hope you come out and march with us, Scott.
Okay.
Thank you so kindly for calling, Scott. Let's go to Brad.
Yeah,
and folks, there are empty lines, 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. Brad, come on in.
Hey, Egberto, I got to call you out on what you said about Cuba.
Please do.
Yeah, in the harbors, how many boats did you see, like personal sailboats?
Not many.
None. Why? Because
Right.
they'd all be in Florida the next day.
Right?
Okay? I do business with a man who's Cuban.
Yes.
He was in Cuba earlier today.
Yes.
Earlier this year.
Yes.
They brought a whole bunch of he brought a whole bunch of stuff, like toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap.
Yes.
Okay? Because they don't have that stuff. And that's not because of an embargo. I mean, Mexico's not part of the embargo. Brazil's not part of the embargo. Japan's not part of the embargo. Canada, England, the rest of the European Union, even Israel owns orange groves in Cuba, where they grow them there, okay? You said this stuff, how wonderful it is. You go outside of Havana, try to find air conditioning, okay? The air conditioning is in the hotels because they don't have power plants down there. And the man, because I don't know which government was messing up his visa, he was not allowed to go. He had to go back, so he gave his cousin some little all-you-can-eat thing at some hotel, and the people who worked there thought he was a member of the Communist Party because locals are not allowed at these places, okay?
Okay, you want me to respond now?
Please, by all means, respond.
Okay, no problem, my friend. First of all, no country is a panacea, and secondly, I have never attempted to make the belief that the full communistic form of government that they had was the way to go. Absolutely not. What I continuously tell people is there is a reason why there was a communist government instituted in Cuba. There's also a reason for people like myself and everybody of color to look at Cuba and say, hey, why did that have to occur? People like myself, when we were in Cuba, lived sweeping floors or entertaining people. When Castro came into power, these people became engineers, lawyers, and doctors. You cannot ask those who've been dispossessed for their entire lives to see a system where they can actually look in the mirror and be proud of themselves to somehow hate the system. Now, I am not a fanatic of communism in the least. In the least, I am a social democrat. I believe in freedoms and I believe in free enterprise. Guess what? In Cuba right now, there is also two economies. The communist economy, which is completely and entirely controlled by the government, and a local economy, a free enterprise economy that works on the ground. You can't live on $24 a month, which is what an engineer makes out there. But guess what? They survive, and guess how they survive? Because there's another economy. It's not the best, but you know what? When you have the mother country, when you have the American government instituting an embargo, and when you have an American government that has influence on every other government of the world, you don't get the economic activity that would otherwise have been generated within the people in Cuba. So please, you have to stop buying the rhetoric that you hear over here. We don't have to say we love communism. I don't. We don't have to say any of those things at all. But what we must look at is the people. Look at the people themselves. You have. Let me tell you, the people who came over from Cuba, who continue to live in Florida, who still want to overthrow the Castro government, etc. That was the Cuban plutocracy who initially came over here to the States, and they want their property back, property that they didn't get the right way, property that they didn't own. In fact, I don't even believe in owning property there. There's a lot to learn in Cuba, and there are two ways to approach it. You can buy. Wait, let me finish, my friend. You can go ahead and decide that you want to buy the rhetoric from the American plutocracy, or you can decide, I am going to go talk to the people and see what these people really want. Do they want a strictly communist government? No. Do they want the benefits of free enterprise? Yes. Do they want capitalism? Absolutely not. We have indoctrinated the American people into believing that capitalism and free enterprise are the same thing. They are absolutely not the same thing. One pilfers the middle class and the poor, and the other takes care of everybody, with everybody using their own indignity. Talk to me, my brother.
Yeah, I think his family, they would like their property back. I think the Cuban government took their floral shop.
Exactly.
Not exactly a commanding height.
Right.
Okay?
Right. I got you.
They took a floral shop.
I got you, brother.
All right. And his wife refuses to go to vacation, to go to Cuba, because she hates it over there because there's no air conditioning where they have to stay. But let's talk about another one.
Yes, sir.
I won't listen to all the gobbledygook here in America.
Mm-hmm.
I'll listen to Democracy Now!, okay?
Good for you.
And several years ago, you guys are just, and over your Pacifica, just saying, ranting and raving about Hugo Chavez and that government, but now you guys don't talk about that government.
Let me
Why
stop.
is that?
Okay, let me tell you about Hugo Chavez. And you see, one of the problems here in the States is we don't get news. We get propaganda, okay? Hugo Chavez was also a result of a plutocracy. There would have been no Hugo Chavez if there was no Carlos Andrés Pérez. Okay? Carlos Andrés Pérez was one of the biggest pilferers of Venezuela. All right? Period. He made sure and sold off the resources of the country to the American and the foreign oil companies. So don't tell me that somehow there wasn't a reason for Hugo Chavez. When Hugo Chavez came into power, Hugo Chavez went ahead and said, a country that is swimming in oil, a country who is on top of one of the largest reserves of oil in this hemisphere, how can their people be poor? How can their people be poor under a democracy, under Carlos Andrés Pérez and others? How can they be poor? And he pretty much fixed that, for which, you know what happened? The plutocracies of the world made him pay. And how did they make him pay? They made sure there were scarcities. And when you make sure there are scarcities, the average Venezuelan citizen doesn't know that these scarcities are false. They think the scarcities are real. They think the scarcities are created by some strange socialist government. When these scarcities were created by, not by law, but by institutes from the United States, the big old Chicago boys and all of that. So my brother, we have to stop listening to the crap we hear in the United States to promote a capitalist economy that has not only decimated many of the rest of the world, but is decimating our own people. You can't have
the Houston Press, because the Houston Press had this article not
that
long ago
look,
about
you know,
all these supporters of Chavez.
My brother,
have some have come to Houston who now are in
my
prison
brother,
because they pilfered the country.
My brother, it doesn't, to me, you know, I don't care who says what, right? I only care what is real. In other words, I don't care where it's printed. It could be printed in the Washington Times. It could be printed in the New York Times. It doesn't matter to me.
Why is Hugo Chavez's daughter one of the wealthiest women on the planet?
Because she stole the money. That's why.
Okay, so you will admit that people close to Hugo
of
Chavez
course.
are a bunch of thieves.
You know what? You know what is important? Truth is important, right? If a lot of people surrounding Hugo Chavez were thieves. They were thugs. But a lot of people surrounded Andrés Pérez were also thugs. Now, I prefer the thug that's going to give some of the money to the people than the thug who keep it all.
I understand. There's a horrible movie called The Conquistadors, but it talks about, there was this, real quickly, we'll take 30 seconds.
Yes.
Some Latin American crooked leader that got overthrown by this guy, I think his name was El Condor. He then became a crook, and he got overthrown by El Lobo. And at the very end of the movie, it showed that guy being the generalissimo saluting his new military.
Right.
Who cares if they're right wing or left wing? If they're a bad person, they got to go.
Look, we are in the same team. Hey, Brad, let me tell you something. And you know why I get along with all my callers? Because if you're right, you're right. But if you're wrong, you're damn wrong, right? If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let me tell you, stop listening to propaganda and let's go ahead and make sure that, because that is why we are in the state that we are right now in the country, because we've listened to so much of the crap that comes on ABC, CBS, MSNBC, and all the others. That's not news. That is propaganda by a corporatocracy who is intent on keeping themselves a plutocracy. That's all it is. All right, my brother?
You have a good weekend.
You too, my brother. You take care now. All right, let's go to MOD, line 2. MOD.
Afternoon.
How you doing, my brother?
Good. I'm listening to y'all, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
If it's okay, Egberto, if I tell you how, since the infancy of OSS, the CIA in '48, these color revolutions through, his name's Gene Sharp. He's a Rand Corps.
Yes, sir.
And he basically writes up 195 ways for a peaceful revolution. But what we've seen from Hugo, which was a progressive,
yes,
a result of of imperial occupation, to the first actual operative of the CIA was Castro.
Right.
They sent him to go blow up the barracks and the medical installation, and that was the sucker and Che. And to his Patisse with fighting the banana company.
Right. Yeah, Chiquita Banana.
Yeah, in Cuba. I mean, so all these progressives, how it works per Rand Corporation is the folks who ran Vietnam and who are now running Ukraine with Victoria Nuland. Is you go in first with coup d'états if you can't have occupation of transnational corporations through international monetary lending. You're the guy that wrote the Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Okay, we're going to have to kind of move on, my dear brother.
Well, I got one word in here, but maybe I can finish the point then.
Yes, go ahead.
That you first, if you can't, get a country to take a loan like they did when the barrel went up 400%, OPEC, and most all those countries in Central and South America took a loan.
Yes.
And that's how you control the royalties. You tax them for like air and water almost. And then if that doesn't work, you have a coup. You have a progressive come up, and if that doesn't work, you have intervention.
Right.
So Seymour Hersh.
Actually, MOD, that's an important point that you just made there. I hope you realize that. Very important point.
Well, look at Iran.
Yes.
They're going to the fourth or fifth iteration of coup. Seymour Hersh wrote in 2005 that there is a coup going on currently in Iran. And guess what's going on in Iran right now?
Yes, they have their own intifada going on right. Well, that's not an intifada, but their own objections right now. Yeah.
They have protests that are unorganized. And you listen to let me some NPR on Pentagon or CIA. Goodman, she'll cover the bases, but she won't go to the core of the subject. So what I'm trying to conclude with is that this is a playbook. You first have loans, and if the loans are welched, you have progressives come out of the turmoil. That's your Hugo. That's people you think like Hitler or Franco,
right.
Spain, and then if those don't work, you come in with the coup d'états
and then you move on from there.
And you come in with invasion, and so.
All right, Mon.
All right, brother.
You have a good one, brother.
Thank
all
you.
right,
Bye.
let's go. Let's take a quick break.
No, I had a real quick question.
Yes.
For the Women's March. With the Women's March, how can a man get involved with this? Because that's like one of those questions, because I know we're talking about Cuba and everything, but as far as a man coming to the Women's March and showing that they are in solidarity with you, what do you guys have to say? Well, women have to say about the inclusion of men and being part of this bigger movement?
That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked it, because what we need men. We need you guys to use, because as a man, you automatically have privilege and you have a platform that women don't have right now. And we need you guys to use your platform and use your privilege to be the voice for us when we can't be. So we need men to be our allies and to speak for us, and to have a man support the Women's March is going to make all the difference for us. So how to get involved would just be to be a good ally, to listen when women speak, to march with us, and to speak on behalf of us when we are talking about issues like equal pay and reproductive rights.
And we have several men who are involved. My husband is very involved. And what we're going to be doing over the next week, we're going to be videoing some of those men, and we're going to put it on Facebook. They're going to be talking about why they march. And I think that's going to be a really good avenue for men to look at to see why men are marching. And it's not going to be just because my wife told me so. I mean, they would have their own reasons around why they're marching.
Because the women's movement and the women's march can't be anything when we're doing it alone. We have to have, and it's something that, Egberto, you touched upon, we can't do it by ourselves. We all have to come together to fight and fight for the causes that we believe in. And we need men to be our allies and to move this movement forward with us.
Could you go ahead and give the website again so that these men know where to get information?
Yes, it's HoustonWomen'sMarch.com. So it's HoustonWomen'sMarch.com.
That was .org.
Okay, we're going to clarify. It's .com.
Yeah, it's .com.
Okay, before we go to Johnny, I want to ask you guys to tell us a little bit. Because people come and go from the show, so tell them exactly where this march is taking place, and if you know anything about the national one, because we also have a national audience, tell them about the national one as well, if you do know anything about it.
Okay, we're going to be gathering on January 20th at 9:30 a.m. on Sabine Street, and that's near Buffalo Bayou. And the march would start at 10 o'clock, and we will march to City Hall, where we'll have a number of speakers and activities. We're going to have DJ Gracie there. Many of you might be familiar with her. And we're also going to have Cam from the Sufferers, who's going to be there.
Really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
we're really
She's gonna be
excited
there
about that. And she will be there helping to kick us off. So we're really excited about
So again,
that.
what's the street that it starts on?
So
It
it's
starts
gonna-
on Sabine Street.
So it's if you want to put it in your GPS, it's easier to put in Waterworks Park.
Uh-huh.
So that's a skate park that's on Sabine Street.
Okay, Waterworks Park on Sabine Street, folks.
Yes, and so we'll start assembling there at 9:30. We'll kick off over to the City Hall, and it's not that long of a march. It's 0.3 miles.
Oh, that's
So
a walk.
So it
Yeah.
won't be that long. And also, if there are people who are older who want to attend, or people with disabilities who can't march with us, we still want them involved, and we want them to show up as well. So you can go directly to City Hall. We will already have been set up there, and there'll be people there to welcome you. So if you can't march with us, that's okay. Still come, show up, come to City Hall.
Excellent.
Yeah, and we'll have people there to, we'll have voter registrars to register people to vote as well.
Excellent. Something I mentioned in the blog, I hope folks keep in mind, because we have some voter ID issues here in Texas and many other states. Are the voter registrars going to also ensure that not only that they don't only register voters, but they also make them aware of the forms of identification that they'll need at the polls?
Yes, and we'll also have voting locations as well. So we have a lot of information for everyone.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know anything about the National Women's March as well? Give it for our national audience.
Not at the moment, but we can always get that information and get back to you on
Okay,
it.
great. We'll add that to the blog. Okay, let's go to line number 3 with Johnny. Johnny, you're hot.
Egberto.
How are you doing, my brother?
From me and Ivanka, happy holidays to you and yours. White the KPFT.
Yes.
Who are so deathly afraid and threaten to buy socialism.
Right.
Let me remind these guys, even the ones who say they are regular consumers of democracy now, that the USA still has poor rural communities as we speak where there's no indoor toilets.
Right.
Okay? Another thing to keep in mind is Cuba. They offered to send doctors and nurses with medical backpacks right after Hurricane Katrina hit. They had them all lined up, ready to go from the airport to land in New Orleans and render aid. And what did the Bush administration say?
No.
No thanks.
Yeah, and I can tell you a bit more than that. Cuba actually trains American doctors to come back and work in those same rural areas that you're talking about. So we have to be frank about that.
Serve all around the world, including in
Right.
the USA.
Exactly.
USA.
Brother, let me tell you, my daughter right now is in medical school, and by the time she's out, she'll probably be $500,000 in debt. She also considered at one point going to Cuba and because of some More difficult certification reason she didn't. But I'm telling you, there are quite a few Americans out there going to school. Johnny, I got to get to the other call unless you have something very quick to say.
Thing, Venezuela, they offered and they started delivering free heating oil to people in New York City, poor people, poor neighborhoods, during some severe winter not too long ago. Venezuela and Cuba, they suffer at the hands of the United States with or without an embargo. It's not socialism. It's insecure white people in America who have to have their way. And if you don't believe me, read Michael Parenti or John Perkins.
Johnny,
Democracy for a Few or Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Thank you so kindly, Johnny. You always have good information for us. Okay, let's go to linea numero uno with Richard. Come on in, Richard. We kind of close on time now. Come on in, Richard.
Thank you. I have a question for the Women's March ladies that are there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Hi, Richard.
Yeah, my great aunt, who has a historical marker not far from my house here in Walker County, was the first lady to ever run for United States Senate from Texas. She was second to ever run for governor of Texas.
That's amazing.
Behind Ma Ferguson, and she was part of FDR's administration.
Wow.
She would be appalled at what she'd be witnessing if she was still alive. She died in 1964, and I was just 9. I remember her really well. I remember she took the back seat out of her car so she could put more political signs in there. she was way ahead of her time.
She's a powerhouse.
Okay, John, Richard, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Give me your opinion. Why in the world, in 2016, 54% of white women voted for this underwear stain in the White House?
Taxes.
That's my question.
Thank you very much for calling in, Richard, and they'll answer it. I'll listen on the phone for them to answer. Go ahead.
I mean, I can't speak on white women's behalf at this point. It would just.
I think part of it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say
we have a white woman in here that can come and make a comment. Come on here and make your comment. I don't think 4 is on, so come. You can use my mic.
And while she's coming, I just want to mention I think part of it has to do with religious and the whole abortion issue as well.
I want to hear what this white woman says.
Well, I read or heard that it was because a lot of it had to do with healthcare, because a lot of people who were in the middle income and above, they're paying double in healthcare, and so sometimes it was just a one-topic vote. And I've talked, and also if they have money, that was another issue.
54% of white women, I can guarantee you that over half of them were receiving subsidies. And not only that, I can guarantee that 25% of those were probably poor because they were Trump supporters.
Well, I just remember hearing a discussion with Richard Wolf,
yes.
and he was interviewing a woman, and that's what she was saying.
There you go. Anyway, thank you very much. Let's go to line number 2, Doc.
How you doing?
Talk to me, Doc.
Hey, listen, I just want to make a comment. I really appreciate your program. I really appreciate you and the information that you're giving out there. I have a 20-year-old son in college. And, the saying nowadays among the youth is stay woke.
Right,
and
exactly.
I really appreciate you for keeping us awake. And I think more adults should listen to your show so that they can be awake and know what's going on.
Thank you so kindly, Doc. Thank you so kindly, Doc. I appreciate your kudos, man. Okay, let's get back to the Women's March now. We don't have much time left. So what I want to do is give the rest of the time to you all, and for us to, and you can kind of start from the beginning, because in radio people come and go. So why don't you tell me about your women's group and the Women's March?
Let me start off by correcting myself. It was not .com. It is HoustonWomen'sMarch.org.
You owe an apology to this woman.
I apologize, Melissa. You were right. It's HoustonWomen's.org.
Okay.
And so we really urge Houstonians to come out to this march because, like we talked about earlier, it was important for us to march in January, but I think it's so much more important to march now to keep that momentum going, B, to tell our government that we aren't okay with everything that they've done and continue to do to our country, and to stand for a more successful democracy. And so our march is going to be on January 20th at 10 a.m. where it's going to start from Waterworks Park, which is on Sabine Street, and we're going to march to City Hall.
And I do want to emphasize, too, that we still need volunteers. So if you're looking as a way to help and to make a difference, we need people to be community organizers. I know there are people that getting people together and getting buses to bring people in to downtown. We need marshals for the parade, for the march, to make sure that we're safe and that we have a very peaceful march. And then we're also looking for people to do sign making parties. So if you want to get together with your friends and make signs, that's would be great too. But I also want to mention that and remind people that signs are welcome, but the signs cannot be on sticks or poles. So make sure you don't come to the march with sticks and poles on your signs.
And another thing that I want you guys to know is that this is going to be a very large march that we're organizing. But large marches like this, it always comes down to it, but it always costs money. And so we do have a GoFundMe page, and you can just go to our website. It's HoustonWomen'sMarch.org, and there's a giant donate button on there. So if you aren't able to come to the march, you can always do your part by donating, because we have porta potties, we have police, we have what else are we paying for the sound system? This time we're going to have a much better sound system so that everybody who is attending the march, even people all the way in the back, can hear. So I know it's not fun to talk about money, it's not glamorous, but it really does come down to that to make sure we're successful. So if you are willing to donate, please do.
I don't want to interrupt you if you have some more to say, but I want to talk about the left side and money. The left side need to get over it as far as asking for money to move the project forward. The right wing has no problem funding themselves and asking for money. The left needs to ask for money, and the people need to contribute to the left, because the reason we are held so behind is because we are unfunded. So folks, if you can support Starbucks, or if you can support all these other businesses that are part of our plutocracy. Starbucks is a good company though. But for all these other companies that are part of the plutocracy, by God, you can support the movement that is trying to support the middle class and the poor. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to go ahead and Janice.
Yeah, I just also want to mention that we're going to have some beautiful T-shirts on sale, and they should be on our website within the next couple of days. So we encourage you to purchase a T-shirt to wear to the march. Then I also want to mention that we're going to have a great after party at the conclusion of the march, and we're going to have a group of artisans there who's going to be selling jewelry and other things that some of the proceeds would be going to the Houston Women's March as well.
So the after party is going to be at Axelrad right after the march. So come out, hang out with us, support small business, because that's really, if you support local, it will change where you live.
I hope you're going to play a little bit of salsa now.
Yeah.
Do you have the address for Axelrad?
I do not.
But they gave the name. It's going to be easy to find. Folks, look, thank you so kindly for listening to the show. Let me tell you, there are a lot of things happening, but we depend on you. You have to activate yourself now. You can't look back and say, look at what they've done to me. It's always going to be, look at what you've done to yourself if you don't participate. We need full participation. Please support the Women's March. Please support the left. Please support progressives. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.